loud enough, I think everything.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, Gita teaches us to be compassionate and for every soul. But how does one drop their ego, their pride, and be compassionate against people who are like toxic and who are not really, the world is full of all kind of people. To be honest, I've been in association of the devotees here for the last 9 years, and I honestly feel that they are so compassionate, they have no ego, no pride, they selflessly give you their time, into conducting classes and, being there. It's just so difficult to be perfect. So the first step towards being, in the path of my journey to be a devotee, how do I drop the ego? Like that's something which is very difficult.
Okay, your question was how to actually become free from the ego. Okay, I'll just correct that. It's to become free from the false ego, because real ego means our identity. So we can't be free from our identity. We have an identity, but we also have a false identity. And that becomes the problem. So when we identify with this body, then we immediately identify with man, woman, engineer, rich, poor, handsome, beautiful, so many other things. So that I'm American, I'm Syrian, I'm an enemy, I'm a friend. These are all bodily designations. These become the false ego. So first we have to start by understanding who we are, and that way we can regulate our conduct. But ultimately, as Krishna here says, you have to understand the process of liberation. Because this has been habit forming. At least we've been doing it for this life, so we recognize that we've picked up some bad habits. Here he says that the different conceptions of life from one body to another, and we're carrying habits from previous life. That needs to be purified, cleaned. So, literally speaking, it has to be clean. And therefore, the chanting process is the cleansing process. It is what cleans the heart. Cheto darpana marjana. And as the heart becomes clean, then actually we become free from these false conceptions. And we realize, yes, I've got clothes, I have to wear clothes because civilized people wear clothes, but I'm not these clothes. And therefore, wearing clothes doesn't become a major fashion industry, it just becomes a functional necessity. Is that all right?
Absolutely. So we start chanting.
Yes. Yes, it has to be there. In order to really become free from all these false misconceptions, and this is what ultimately religion is about. Religion is about purifying us from these misconceptions, starting with this one. But this breeds a lot of other things.
Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else.
Questions with Kishore? Somebody?
Oh, go ahead.
By chanting, we still don't overcome our anger. It does just, I know it takes time, but it's still there. We chant, at that time we are calm. The time there's a situation that changes, or you see people not doing things as you want, whatever, you just again get into your normal.
Just in case you didn't hear in the back, here the question was how do you overcome anger? Because when you may be chanting, you may be feeling very calm, but the tendency to be angry is there. Now interestingly, as I mentioned, the soul is not a neuter. It's not some kind of qualityless, formless, characterless thing. It actually is, that's actually who we are. We're people. We're persons. Our personality doesn't come from our body. It doesn't come from any chemicals. It comes from the soul. And as individuals, we have different qualities. And anger has its base in a spiritual identity. But the anger has to be rightly motivated and for the right reason, or the right cause. So, just like we purify the false ego, we also purify false anger, but anger may be there. Because you can just say that, are you supposed to be happy? Yeah, you're supposed to be happy. But happiness also has its pure form, and it has its impure form. So impure form of happiness is when we think that by satisfying our senses, and with that temporary sensation that we get, that that's happiness. Well, it's not. That's a temporary, and it's impure because it's a falsely identifying. It's not that I'm happy, it's just that I'm giving a certain sensation to the body, which is relieving the general suffering or monotony that I feel in life. So, but real happiness is something which is perpetual and which is inner. And that's our nature also. Anger also has its place, but it has to be rightly focused and for the right purpose. So personal characteristics are there within the soul. And the soul has personality and it has individuality. That was the first verse. All of these, they all remain individual. So we're also individuals. We have individuality. We not only look different, but we behave different, we have different character. That character originally comes from the soul. So getting back to the original features and characteristics of the soul is the real journey of self-realization. And how do we actually get there? It's a wonderful challenge. Okay, you have to be really loud.
What is the origin of the soul?
What is the
What is the origin of the soul? Like, how the
it's
soul is
eternal.
come and existed and
It has no beginning and it has no end. It's eternal. Is that satisfactory?
no.
Why?
Everything has some beginning and end.
Who said it?
What about soul?
No, who said everything has a beginning and an end? That's not logical. Some things have a beginning and end, but why can't there be those things that have no beginning and an end? Other things that have a beginning and no end, and ultimately something that has no beginning and no end. Those are the four logical possibilities.
Like we study that initially the sun exploded and we have all the planetary system and everything coming to existence.
But that's what you study, but that doesn't mean that that's all that exists. So if you have two things, beginning and end, then you have four permutations of these. And one of them is that it has no beginning and no end. Just like if you ask the question, where does God come from? Does he have a beginning? He can't have a beginning, because the definition of God is that he's the source of everything. So spirit, the nature of spirit, you're right, but everything that's material has a beginning and end. But not everything that's spiritual. So spiritual has no beginning and has no end. That's its nature. It's eternal. Is that it?
To be very honest, no.
Is it a
I need some more detailed discussion.
You need more?
More detailed discussion. Maybe later.
But is it a logical possibility? Are only those things exist that have beginning and an end, or those things that you may have experience with? So there's no reason why other things can't exist, and you have that experience in this life. at least in this life, you can experience that although things have a beginning or an end, boyhood, youth, old age, they all have a beginning and end. And of course, these are not the only 3 ages we go through, but still, the soul's not changing. We're not changing.
No, I mean to say, suppose today I am here, I have a soul. In my previous birth, there was a soul, the same soul was there.
Yeah.
In a birth previous to that, the same soul was there.
Tata
So
Devantara.
what is the beginning like? How many lives were there?
No
What is
beginning.
the beginning of the system?
There's no beginning for the soul.
Yeah.
There's no beginning for the soul. And because you can't remember, you have to accept it from a higher authority. And the higher authority is God. So you have to accept from His authority that the soul is eternal. Just like we accept a lot of things. Just like we accept that professors and teachers say that everything has a beginning and an end. You just accept it. You haven't studied everything. You just accept it on their word that it does. And neither have they done an experiment on everything that exists that it has a beginning and an end. It's just a generalization. But it's not a scientific statement. It's not something that's proven by experiment. So, and there are many things that are beyond the range of our experiment. And the soul is something that we don't have instruments to directly see, measure, and so on, because it's beyond material perception. But you can see its effect, and that's why Krishna gives this example. Just like the sun. You don't see the sun early in the morning, but you see the sunshine. So there is consciousness in this body. And that consciousness means that there's something that's conscious. And it's not the body, because at a certain point the body becomes unconscious. So yes, there are things that have no beginning and no end. But they're different than material things. All material things have beginning and end, you're completely right. But this other thing doesn't, that's its nature.
Can the soul exist without a body?
Yeah.
A material body?
Sure.
Can exist.
Yes. Yes. In fact, our original identity is not to have a material body. But the soul does have a form. Now, how do you know that the soul has a form? Because you just watch what happens to this body when the soul leaves. It doesn't maintain its form. It falls apart. So just like you stick a hand in a glove, the glove moves, you take the hand out, and the glove doesn't move anymore, and the glove becomes limp. Similar, this body decomposes as soon as the soul leaves. It loses its form, because the soul has form. This body feels because the soul feels. What sees? You're seeing me. If I see right, you have glasses on. Do your glasses see? Do the glasses see?
See.
No. Do your eyes see?
Through the glass.
But do your eyes see?
Eyes are seen through the glass.
Do your eyes see? No, the eyes don't see. Does your mind see?
Yes.
Mind is processing
No.
the information.
Mind is just this. What sees? What sees me? You're the one who sees me. Just like my eyes and my glasses don't see, similarly neither my eyes nor my mind or whatever other type of projection system there is, it's the soul that sees. I'm the one who sees. So we are the seer. Because we see, this body sees. But as soon as you can't see, the body can't see. If that seeing potential is taken away. How are we doing time-wise? Over time? So should we stop and then if...
One last question.
Go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
Does the soul multiply also, or the quantum of suppose one soul, suppose I have one soul.
Yeah, no.
When I die, the same amount of soul will go to another body?
Same. Krishna says, any of us cease to be. Cease to be, neither we come to an end nor we multiply. We remain individual all the time. We always remain individual. Souls don't multiply. They're not like amoebas. They're always individual identity. We maintain our individual identity. Very relevant questions. Thank you. So perhaps we should leave it here for this evening. And what's going to happen now, Lavina?
We have some prashadam and that's it.
We have little snacks and everyone wants to